Does a strong immune system prevent viruses? Well, in the times that we're living in right now, this question is being asked more and more frequently. If you're concerned about the next virus, the next variant, kids back in school, the next fall, cold and flu season, and you're worried about getting sick, then this video is for you. I'm here to answer that question, plus give you proven solutions. So let's get started. Hi, I'm Dr. Kelly Shockley, Doctor of Cause Chiropractic, board certified in sports medicine and specialized in clinical nutrition. In this video, we're going to go over a little known connection that dictates your immune's health. Nearly half of you will get sick while the other half won't. Then we'll uncover one of the greatest predictors on if you'll get sick or not. This is completely in your control. You don't want to miss it. And finally, I'll be sharing with you the top 5 ways to boost your immune system and get you more protected and armed for this next cold and flu season. Let's dive right on in. Now, what is this little known connection that will dictate the level of your immune health? It is this connection within your gut. Everything to do with the microbiome, which might be something you have now heard of. This is information that's really getting delved into over the last 5 years. Here's what we know. Your immune system predominantly exists in your gut, and there's a reason for that. Your gut, believe it or not, even though it's inside of you, still is like your first line of defense of protecting you from everything in the outside world, whether it's a bad food or it is a parasite or a virus, you name it. Unless it can get past your digestive system and enter into your bloodstream, it's not technically in your body, and your body can deal with it how it wants and eliminate it on the back end. Right behind your digestive system, within your bloodstream, basically, is where your immune system hangs out. So it's your second line of defense. If something gets by the gut and enters into the bloodstream that shouldn't be there, your immune system's there, and it's patrolling. Think of it as like your state troopers. They're out kind of patrolling your bloodstream, which is the nice interstate system that's going to go everywhere in the body, right? Well, if something makes it through and into the bloodstream, whether it's like a partially digested protein, it's a GMO, it is a virus, your immune system's there and it's like, aha, we have a foreign invader. And as soon as that happens, then your immune system sends out an alert. So it's like it gets on the radio and it lets every other immune cell in the body know, hey, we've got a foreign invader. We need to take this guy and deal with him so that it doesn't create a problem. Through that process is then when the immune response comes into play. And depending on how big or small this is, dictates on if you end up with symptoms of this happening or not, okay? But part of what happens too is this microbiome that lives within the gut. It's this whole ecosystem that honestly makes up 90% of your genetics comes from these microbes. They say, I think it's around 350 genes micro genes per one of your genes. So we're really outnumbered. We're kind of like a host for this ecosystem. We have a great symbiotic relationship. Like they don't exist without us, and we're finding out we don't exist really well without them either. And one of the things that's incredibly important for you to know about the microbiome is it's part of what is your defense that keeps you protected and safe. We're looking at the microbiome and that maybe it and its response is really what dictates how medications work. We know that it influences our mood. It influences everything about our health and well-being, not just our immune system health. Okay. One of the things that we have grown to appreciate about the microbiome that lives within the gut is that people who have a lot of diversity, so a lot of different types of bacteria predominantly are what make up the microbiome. If there's several different types, then what we know is these people have a higher threshold. They don't have as many health issues. They are people who don't generally get sick as often. On the flip side of that are people who don't have a lot of diversity within the gut, and maybe this is the result of being on different antibiotics throughout the lifetime, using different antibacterial types of soaps or other products. We even can relate this now back to being born cesarean section versus coming from the birth canal itself. And that's because of what the baby is first exposed to. It sets up kind of the stage for this microbiome. So people who have less diversity in the microbiome, their threshold is actually a lot lower. which makes them much more vulnerable to all kinds of different health challenges, including being sick. So we need to understand this gut immune system connection, the microbiome immune system connection, and how to amplify and basically increase the level of their health, because ultimately that will help out the immune system that much further. So we need to focus on improving gut health. And some of the things I'm going to share with you in this next topic are going to get right into that, especially at the very end of this video. So don't go anywhere. Now, I'm super curious, before we move on to the next tip here, did you know anything about this gut immune system connection? Drop your responses down in the comments for me. I'd love to know your thoughts on this. And I read every single comment and always respond to you as well. So drop your answers down below. Awesome. Now we're going to get into one of the greatest predictors of if you're going to get sick or if you'll stay healthy. This comes down to how you're living life. Okay. And not only does this talk about sickness with viruses, but this also gives us insight on different health challenges, whether they seem to run in your family or not as well. Our lifestyle dictates so much about our current level of health. So some of the variables that are critically important to evaluate is like our sleep, what we're eating, are we managing stress, and what have you. So one of the best predictors is really the type of food that you're eating and how you're eating. Because again, this influences the health of our gut and the health of that microbiome, and then everything else beyond that once things enter into our body. So if you find that you are constantly eating food that we know is not awesome for us, like processed foods, prepackaged, fast foods, if you eat out all the time, you're more than likely exposing yourself to things that are going to challenge your gut health. When we decrease our gut health, we increase our vulnerability and make our immune system basically weaker or not have as great defense mechanisms put in place. Okay, so food is a huge thing. If we are dealing with constant levels of stress, which who isn't these days, right? Unfortunately, there's no way to make us remove stress. But how we build more of a resistance so that stress doesn't take us out is critically important. So if we are dealing with a very high stress lifestyle right now, whether it is in our relationships, within work, school situations, family, you name it, it's going to decrease, again, the level of your gut health because it directly is related. So when you're dealing with stress, blood flow gets basically diverted away from your digestive system. It goes into your arms and your legs more because literally your body's getting ready to prepare to run away from a situation or to fight a situation. So whether you're actually going to run or fight something, it doesn't matter. That is the process of what's happening. And when you don't have proper blood flow to your digestive system, well, guess what? You're not going to be absorbing any of the good nutrients that you're putting in to begin with. And you're going to have digestive challenges. And ultimately, that's going to lead to a weakened immune system as well. Okay? If we are consuming things we know that maybe aren't always the best for us, or maybe there's some controversy around that, like alcohol or sugar, because these are like comfort foods or ways that we can feel less stressed or more relaxed at the end of the day, just know that those things in our lifestyle and our social habits can be very detrimental, again, for ultimately first gut health and second immune system. And part of what goes on with alcohol and sugars is that it amplifies our inflammation in our body. Inflammation, think of it as like fire. You do not want your body on fire, okay? If your body is on fire, how good of a response is it going to have to a foreign invader? It's already having to deal with the fire that's happening, right? So removing things from your life that increase inflammation is a key factor in there. Alcohol and sugar are some of those. Okay. Sleep habits is another critically important variable that can basically set us up for being sick or not. If you're not sleeping well at night, whether it's you can't fall asleep or you don't stay asleep, or maybe you're the person who can sleep for like 10 hours, but you don't feel like you've slept at all when you wake up, it's challenging the overall health and well-being throughout the rest of your body, right? So figuring out how to sleep more soundly at night. And I even say with my patients, like, yes, research says we need 7 to 8 hours of sleep at night. I want to focus more on quality sleep. Okay. If you're in bed for 7 to 8 hours and you're tossing and turning all night long, compared to somebody who is out like a brick and they're getting to those deep levels of sleep, they're not interrupted, they don't toss and turn, and maybe they're only sleeping for 6 hours, while a little on the short side, they're getting far better quality of sleep compared to the person who's only sleeping to 7 to 8 and tossing and turning all night. So how your sleep is very much so amplifies everything about your health. And when we sleep, we know that that's part of when our immune system really kicks in. That's where our body repairs itself. And there's so many other critical functions that happen while we're sleeping. So if you're looking at these different lifestyle factors and you're like, oh, I don't sleep right, I'm not controlling food, like I'm not making my own food, I'm eating out all the time, I'm grabbing for things that are already packaged or processed, I've got significant amounts of stress, chances are you're much more vulnerable than what you would have to be. And the cool thing is most of this is in your control. There are so many easy solutions out there for, especially when it comes to food, for helping you get quality food in, even if you're not the one doing all the cooking. So really look at those factors and see where can I improve or how can I improve these areas to help raise your threshold so you're not so vulnerable when you come in contact with something that is a virus or a bacteria or what have you. Now, before I get into like my 5 favorite ways for boosting your immune system, I just want to take a moment to remind you, click that subscribe button down below, turn the notifications on, and if you're enjoying this video, give me a big thumbs up. Greatly appreciate your support. I am producing videos on a regular basis about how do you strengthen your immune system? What are other factors that challenge the immune system? How to improve gut health, brain health, everything to help you be able to take back control of your health so that you can achieve something I like to call total body mastery. It's really where you're basically invincible, which is awesome. So don't forget, click the subscribe button, turn the notifications on, and give me a big thumbs up for doing a good job for you. Thank you. What are my 5 favorite ways to boost your immune system? Let's get into them. You kind of might have a little inkling of an idea right now because we're just talking about lifestyle factors, which we do need to address. So the very number one, way to boost the immune system is how are you eating? Okay. I've mentioned, sugars and alcohols and processed, refined, prepackaged foods we want to steer away from. But there are some foods that you definitely that's a little daunting. I want you to focus on these foods or trying to eat this kind of way to start building you up. As you make the transition, it makes it easier to start avoiding some of the things that are just simply not good for not only our immune system, but our overall health and well-being. 1 out of every 4 bites should be of a quality, clean protein source. Okay. So 1/4 of your plate should be protein. 3/4 of your plate should be vegetables. And vegetables are a great vehicle for getting good fats, which are the healthy fats in the body. Those healthy fats are going to help squash out the fire. And if you eat this way, and predominantly just this way, it really helps to boost the level of your gut health, which again will create more integrity within that system. It will help strengthen the microbiome, which gives you your first line of defense that you need to have so that the immune system doesn't have to work so hard trying to pick up all the mess that the gut is simply allowing into the bloodstream. Okay. Within that, we also want to add in some of those fermented foods. So whether it's kombucha or kimchi or, kefir, sauerkraut, all of the fermented foods that are in the refrigerator section, mind you, not in the aisles, because if it's in the aisles, it's been heat treated and you're losing a lot of its great benefits. You want to get the stuff from the refrigerated section. Those types of foods help to feed that microbiome. And we need the microbiome to be healthy, right? So food is a big factor. Eating the way that we just stated is really going to help you build your gut health and boost your immune system. Now, my second favorite thing to do is to start managing stress. Okay. Again, we're not going to ever really achieve a stress-free lifestyle, I think, so long as we're all still living on the same planet. So we need to implement strategies that help us on a daily basis, guys, to start calming the body down. Whether it's meditation or it's deep breathing or it's going for a walk, any kind of physical exercise or activity, even if it's like you don't like to walk or run or any of those things, that's fine. Or you don't want to go to the gym, that's totally fine. Dance around your house, be active. We were not meant to sit. And lots of things go right down the tubes when we stay static all day long. So we need to move. When we move, we produce hormones in our body that help to actually alter or block our body's ability to use the stress hormones that are generally being pumped out far more than what they should be. So being active is another great way to manage your stress. Or pick an activity that you love, like a great book that you can get lost in, where you can kind of close out what's going on in reality if you need to right now and have a bit of an escape. But the key with this is you've got to do something on a daily basis, because every single day we're encountering stress. So food's number one, stress management is number two. Okay. Something else is really important is nutrition. Now I'm talking more about supplementation. And I know there's a lot of controversy around this topic. There's been people that are telling you that you can't boost your immune system. And I really want to know where their research is on that, because when you go and you look in peer-reviewed journals, and like one of the main hubs is PubMed, you find all kinds, like thousands of peer-reviewed journal articles that show using these types of nutrients actually does help with immune system response and function. So I want to share with you kind of a few of my favorites that we take on a regular basis, whether we're sick or not. And honestly, we don't get sick. So what I'm sharing with you right now is something that I live. And I have a kid who's with kids all of the time, whether it's at jujitsu, where they're actually on top of each other, Muay Thai from when he was in public school. This kid doesn't get sick either. So I must be doing something kind of right. Okay. So my very favorite one is, of course, vitamin C. Now, we take a high dose of vitamin C, around 4,000 milligrams every single day, compared to just 1,000 milligrams a couple of times a day. That's kind of our set, this is just what we do. It's our constant. That vitamin C we take is actually buffered so that our body can fully absorb it and not have any kind of crazy GI effects. If somebody's starting to show any kind of sign that maybe they're not feeling 100%, we will boost that vitamin C and nobody gets sick. Okay. So vitamin C is a number one. Zinc, of course, we're doing that as well, just to help with how the immune system responds. And you know what? Zinc does so much else in the body. It's required for 20% of every single chemical process that's happening. The other 80% is magnesium, which, by the way, we're super deficient in. So that's in our wheelhouse, but that's not necessarily specific to immune function, okay? We also do vitamin D. Vitamin D, there's been so much documented research that's come about in this last year and a half. And I'm really kind of blown away why more of this isn't being talked about on mainstream media or by public health officials or what have you, because what we've seen time and time again is people who had normal levels of vitamin D, if they actually got infected with what's been going on in this, craziness that we're living in the last year and a half, they barely had any symptoms. They were really, really mild. And on the opposite side of that is some of the most severe cases that ended up in our hospitals, their vitamin D levels kind of ceased to exist. Now, last time I had checked on Google, it says only about 46% of Americans are deficient in vitamin D. I run vitamin D tests on my patients near and far all of the time. And I can tell you it's more like 98% of my patients are deficient in it. And a lot of my patients live here in Colorado, where we have sun 300 days of the year. This is our sunshine vitamin, right? So if we were getting enough sun to make enough vitamin D, we wouldn't have this issue. But here's the thing. If you go outside and you have sunblock on, well, you're blocking out your ability to make vitamin D from the use of the rays of the sun. So maybe that's part why we have a lot more deficiencies than whatever we used to. The thing with vitamin D, though, it is really important for you to know what your vitamin D level is before you start supplementing. Because one, if you are not deficient, this is a fat-soluble vitamin, which means you can get too much of it in your system. And there are some detrimental toxic effects. Like worst case scenario, you can end up with kidney failure or a heart attack. So some pretty significant things, which is why we don't always want to just self-medicate. I mean, chances are you're probably deficient if you haven't been taking it, okay? But if you really want to know, drop a comment down below. I can help you get that done wherever you're at, okay? For cheap compared to if you did it through insurance. Otherwise, Figure out what your vitamin D level is. And once you know, then you also have a good idea of how much do you need to be taking to either help improve your vitamin D level or to maintain the current level that you have. So super important. It's one we take all of the time. My other go-to is a probiotic. So probiotic is different than what you're going to get from your fermented foods, which is like your prebiotic. Prebiotic is food for all those little critters that live inside of your gut. Probiotic helps to make sure there's enough of them that is there. Now, the probiotic that I use has 15 different strains, at least 15, of bacteria. You know, most probiotics, when you go to the store, the health food store, which is, if you can't get it from a healthcare provider, somebody in alternative medicine, I would go to the health food stores to find these things. I wouldn't get this at the grocery store or the bulk food stores just because this is kind of an interesting area that's not very well regulated and you don't completely know what you're getting. So I would at least go to one of those types of places to get your nutrition. Okay. Or you can look in the description down below. I believe there is a link to my main manufacturer that you could go on there and be able to access the same nutrition I use with my patients. But probiotics, when you're at the store, you will find more commonly there's only 2 different types of bacteria in them, the bifidobacterium and the lactobacillus, which is great. I mean, if you can't find anything else, at least be using those. But if you recall in the very first tip I was talking about, diversity is what's really key in the microbiome and really helps raise your threshold so that you're not taken out by anything and everything. Then when we're supplementing with probiotics, we want probiotics that have more than just those 2 main bacteria in them. And then probiotics are not created equally either. Another little tidbit for when you're looking for a probiotic. Look for letters and a number after the name of the bacteria. If that's there, then it should be suggesting that that manufacturer is using a probiotic that does not cause fermentation in your gut. That's what winemakers use. Okay, they want these bacteria that ferment. We don't want fermentation happening in our gut. That's a really bad scenario. So many probiotics, many bacteria, followed with letters and a number that's just confirming what type they actually are. That's key for probiotics. So like I said, this is something that we do on a constant. Things change a little bit. If I feel like any of us are coming down with anything where I'm, amplifying those or increasing the dosing spread out throughout the day, I'll throw in another nutrient that has olive leaf extract and elderberry, which stops everything in its tracks. Like I said, we don't get sick and we're around people all of the time. So adding that in is super helpful. Okay. So that was number 3. Number 4 is exercise. Now I talked a little bit about activity for stress management, but just to drive the point home, we are not meant to be static. Okay. We are dynamic beings and everything about our health improves when we're moving. So many people not only have just had a desk job for forever, but now we're at home. And maybe that actually has helped people move around a bit more. But I know it's also created different scenarios and people will get locked in for hours on end, or they're stuck to all these Zoom conferences now that hours will go by and nobody's moved. Okay. And then because of the different restrictions and that have been put in place, gyms were closed and you weren't being able to do anything of like your normal activities. There was some challenges for certain people and other people took on a whole new way of life and they were outside all the time. Okay. The biggest thing you need to know is everything about your health declines when you're not moving. So even a standing desk is better, but if all you do is stand still all day long, that's really not better for you than when you're sitting all day long. Okay. So take more frequent breaks, like once every hour, get up, move around. If you're drinking enough water, which is another key, then you should also need to use the restroom about once an hour. Okay. So get up and move, exercise. It doesn't have to be a lot. You can even break it up. Your body doesn't know any difference as long as you're doing it all within like a 24-hour period. Okay, so if it works better for you to do a 10-minute walk in the morning and maybe a 10-minute walk for lunch and a 10-minute walk in the evening, that's the same as if you went and did a half hour of cardio right then and there. Okay, strength training is another key thing. There's so much benefit that comes back from strength training. And the cool thing is you really only need to do it like twice a week. You don't have to go to the gym and do 6 to 8 exercises per body part and be there 6 days a week and be at the gym for like an hour to 2 hours at a time, just lifting weights. You don't have to do that. A full body routine twice a week that doesn't even take more than a half hour is sufficient. So get up and move. Find things that you enjoy doing and keep exercise as one of your constants. It improves hormone balance, which again also helps to change the immune system function as well, and just so many other factors. And the very last thing for helping is honestly staying away from antibacterial stuff. And I kind of mentioned this in the first tip. There is a study that was done by Mayo Clinic. I believe you could still go to their site and look it up about washing hands. Okay. And I know in the beginning of all this craziness, it was being talked about that wash your hands with soap and water, just soap and water. What they found was that people who use antibacterial soaps on a regular basis compared to people who just use classic soap that's not antibacterial is that the people who had antibacterial soaps, they had a higher amount of bad bacteria on their skin compared to somebody who just used soap and water. Why is that? Well, I believe part of it is your microbiome doesn't just live within your gut, it's also on your skin. And when you're constantly subjecting bacteria, good or bad, because the microbiome does have bad bacteria in it, we just have a majority of good guys, okay? You are killing off bacteria. And you're exposing them to remedies that we would use if we had to really fight a fight against them, which ultimately means they're going to change form, they will mutate, and they will get stronger, right? They have to, because they have to survive. So this is part of what they're doing. The other thing with antibacterial products is you're decreasing the amount of good guys that you actually have that we need in order to fight the fight. So I just use regular soap and water, the way that we should be. We don't have any antibacterial products within our household. You can make your own hand sanitizer out of aloe and a stronger alcohol, like the 99% isopropyl, or even a little bit less than that. The aloe helps to keep it from being so drying to your hands, but alcohol is not an antibiotic, but it does kill bacteria. So if you feel like you need to have something with you, that's your combination, 1-to-1 or a 2-to-1. 2-to-1 as far as alcohol to aloe, guys. Sorry, I said it in reverse of how I had initially said aloe and isopropyl alcohol. Throw in some essential oils if you want something that smells good. Okay, and there are those that actually help with killing off bacteria too. The thing of that is it's not going to kill the bad guy or the good guys off. It's only going to kill the bad guys off. So you're not going to have less of who you need in order to fight your battles. Okay, super important. If you have to be on an antibiotic for some scenario, it's really important for you to get probiotics into your system. You can do them concurrently. You just take them away from each other so they don't negate each other's effects. But you've got to re-inoculate your gut because that's part of what really helps your immune system. So I hope that was super helpful for you. I have for you down below, if you're still kind of I don't know entirely how to be eating, which is one of the most important factors for gut health, for your immune health. Don't even sweat it. I have got some immune boosting recipes for you. They're located right below this video in the description. Click on it so it expands and look for the link that says immune boosting recipes. You click on that, tell me where to send it, and they are yours. That way, every single bite, you can be improving your gut health and improving your immune health and help you stay invincible as we go through the next cold and flu season, as it's said. Okay. I appreciate you so much. I look forward to seeing you on a future episode. God bless.